I am awfully disappointed in the Denver Broncos right now. Now, many of you may know that in 2019, right before the NFL draft, I wanted us to draft Drew Lock 10th overall in 2019. Of course, we didn't. We traded back, got Noah Fant, drafted Dalton Reisner, and then traded up to get Drew Lock in the second. And I was ecstatic when we got him. Then he came in for those final, 4 or 5 games of the season, and he looked great. He looked great at the end of the season, and then we fired our offensive coordinator and switched to Pat Shurmur. Drew Lock then looked pretty bad. He didn't play his best, but I do think that was due to the weird COVID season, and he struggled a little bit. He did struggle. And so then this season we brought in Teddy Bridgewater to push him and bring him in just in case. And I thought Drew Lock would be the starter unless, he played bad enough to lose it. But you can see that this coaching staff is afraid, especially Vic Fangio, of potentially getting the boot and getting sacked next year. And so they started Teddy Bridgewater, who is a safer quarterback. Now, Teddy Bridgewater did look great. I'm not going to lie. He looked good in the preseason. But I think Locke looked better, and I think he deserves it since he's been here longer. And to me, the safer option, it's just not going to take us anywhere. I think we'll still be mediocre. No offense to Teddy. I'm going to support him and root for him this season. But to me, it's just, it sucks and it's hard for me to accept this decision without questioning it. So, it's difficult for me as a Drew Lock fan, but Teddy Bridgewater was named the starter. Now, how long will he be the starter? He could be all season. Maybe Drew Lock comes and takes over at some point, but, we'll see. And to me, this signifies that this group has given up on Drew Lock. Maybe not George Payton, but the coaching staff. But this signifies that we've given up on Drew Lock. So I'm here to look at potential quarterbacks for next season because Teddy Bridgewater will be a free agent next season. So if we go to the free agents and we look at the quarterbacks, obviously there is Big Ben, and we're not going to bring him in because he's 40. Teddy Bridgewater's 30. He's up there in age. Taysom Hill's 32. We're not going to bring him in. Ryan Fitzpatrick, 40 again, not going to bring him in. Andy Dalton and Nick Foles, I don't think we bring him in. Tyrod Taylor, I don't think so. Jameis Winston maybe, but I think New Orleans might bring him back. Cam Newton, Jacoby Brissett, Josh Rosen, Marcus Mariota, Joe Flacco, Mitchell Trubisky, Tim Boyle, Blaine Gabbert, Jeff Driscoll. All these guys I just can't see us bringing in to be our starting quarterback. Now, to me, the most ideal situation would be Drew Lock taking over this season and becoming the starter, or or he just starts next season after Teddy Bridgewater leaves and learns and develops a little bit. But who says he wants to stay? Because next year will be his last season. So let's say we lose Teddy Bridgewater and then he starts and then he gets mad that he didn't start this season. What happens? I'm going to tell you some quarterbacks that I am interested in because I do think I want Locke to be the quarterback, but at the same time, I don't know if the coaching staff fully trusts him, and I do think this was one-sided the whole time. I do not think this was a fair competition whatsoever. I do think that they gave Teddy Bridgewater the edge, and they wanted him to succeed from the very beginning. That's just the way that I feel, and I could be wrong, but that's the vibe that I got. Going for it on fourth down in the second preseason game against the Seahawks with Bridgewater, but you did it with Locke. Stuff like that. It's just disappointing. So it just sucks. But my number one quarterback is Sam Howell. I don't know if we'll be able to get him in the draft. And by the way, I will have a mock draft coming out soon with this situation going on of us potentially trying to draft our next franchise QB. But Yeah, Sam Howell is my number one quarterback. You look at his 2 years at NC State, 496 completions on 770 attempts, 64% completion percentage. He's thrown for 7,000 yards, 68 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. His longest was 48, and he has a passer rating of 168.8. I think he's very solid. A lot of people have Sam Howell and Spencer Rattler as 1A, 1B. A lot of people have Spencer Rattler as their number one quarterback, but to me it's Sam Howell. And if we could get him, I'd be absolutely ecstatic. Then next is going to be Spencer Rattler out of Oklahoma. Now, I'm not as high on Spencer Rattler as a lot of people were and are, but, if he has a solid season this year, then, I'll probably see how he compares to how he does this season, but we can't really look at this top season. I feel like he only got 11 attempts. He didn't get much playing time his first year. So, and let's look at 2020 here. 214 completions on 317 attempts, 67.5 completion percentage, 3,031 yards, 28 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. 22 sacks and 172.6 passer rating, which is fairly good. I just want to see another year out of him before I feel comfortable with the Broncos taking him, because we got to find this guy, man. This is unacceptable by the coaching staff. I think Drew Lock could have been this guy, but you think about all the guys who have started since Peyton Manning, Brock Osweiler, Case Keenum, Trevor Siemian, Paxton Lynch, Joe Flacco, Drew Lock, Brandon Allen, Kendall Hinton. Now Teddy Bridgewater, Brett Rippon, all these guys, and I think Drew Lock could have been the starter, and it makes me so upset that they were clearly biased in this whole competition. So, yeah, it makes me upset. I'm so sad. Then a quarterback that I'm a lot higher on than a lot of people are is Carson Strong out of Nevada. Now, in his 3 years playing, we can't really talk about his freshman season. So, well, actually, that's just rushing stats. We got to go down to his passing stats. We can't really go off his freshman year. But in his sophomore and junior year, these 2 years, he played in 20 games with 486 completions on 729 attempts. He threw 11 interceptions and 38 touchdowns for 5,193 yards. He had a 67% completion percentage. Okay, that's not passer rating, but he's still a very solid quarterback. He's got a strong arm. He's fairly athletic. He's not going to be a threat mobily. He's not going to take off and run the ball on you that well. But he's got a strong arm. He's athletic. He can escape the pocket if he needs to. Just running on the defense is not his strong suit. So you got to watch out for that. But I do think Carson Strong could be a very, very good sleeper pick, potentially in the second round or late first round, if we're not willing to trade up to go get our guy. And, maybe we pull the 49ers and we trade up for a Sam Howell or Spencer Rattler. But if not, I really like Carson Strong. From the tape that I've seen so far, I've really, really liked Carson Strong. Next is Malik Willis. And last year was his really first year that he got to play. He had a couple appearances here and there in Auburn, his first 2 seasons, but the year that he really showed out was in 2020, where he had 170 completions on 265 attempts, 2,260 yards, 20 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and 156.2 passer rating. I think he could be a very good pick. He could end up being QB3 in this draft class. A lot of people have him as QB3 in the next Zach Wilson, Joe Burrow, who's going to rise due to his play this season. So he could be that guy, but, I just prefer Howell, Rattler, and Strong over Malik Willis. But again, Malik Willis is in no way a bad quarterback, and I would not mind picking him up. Next, I have Desmond Ridder, who is a quarterback for the Cincinnati Bearcats. And he's had a pretty solid career thus far in Cincinnati. He returned for his senior season this year, and he has 559 completions on 917 attempts. He has 6,905 yards, 57 touchdowns on 20 interceptions, and he has a 140.4 passer rating. So Desmond Ridder would not be a bad option at all for us to pick up. And finally, the last, what I would consider quarterback that could go in the first round is Matt Corral. In 352 on 526 attempts, he has 352 completions, 4,938 yards, 37 touchdowns, 18 interceptions, and a passer rating of 162.1. So that would be the last first-round quarterback that I would take, potentially in the second round. But he might be more of a second-round quarterback, but he has that first-round upside to me. But my number one option would be Drew Lock coming back and proving the coaching staff wrong. I wish he got a fair chance and a fair shakedown, but to me, I don't really think he did. So we'll have to see. But yeah, that's been this video. If any of the coaching staff is listening to this, I'm just disappointed. Drew Lock has a higher ceiling but a lower floor, and you're playing it safe and you're not willing to take risks. And I don't know if we make it to the preseason with Teddy Bridgewater. I think with Drew Lock, it's a risk, but you at least have a hope of making it far if he pans out. But I guess we'll never know. We might see him this season, we might not, and we might trade him as well. So yeah, bye bye.